Welcome to Motivational Humanity. You are not alone.
Picture a lighthouse. Every night, it throws a warm, steady beam out across the water, guiding every ship that passes, keeping strangers safe from the rocks. But nobody built a light for the lighthouse itself. Inside, it's cold. It's dark. It stands there, faithfully saving everyone else, and never once turns that same warmth toward its own walls. If you know someone like this, or if you are someone like this, you already understand what I mean. They're the friend who texts back at midnight because you're struggling. They're the coworker who covers your shift without a second thought. They're the one who says, "It's okay, don't worry about it," before you've even finished apologizing. But go home with them. Watch what happens when the door closes and no one else is in the room. The voice changes. It stops being gentle. It gets sharp. Why can't you just get it together? You always do this. Nobody actually wants you around. And here's the part that should stop us in our tracks. That same person would never, ever say those words to a friend who made the exact same mistake. Not in 100 years. So why do they say it to themselves every single night without even blinking? This isn't a personality flaw. It isn't just how they are. What we're looking at today is a psychological pattern. One that's been quietly running in the background of millions of minds, including maybe yours. So let's slow down and let's actually understand it. Because understanding it is the first step to finally putting it down. You are not the only one. Here's the first thing I want you to hear. You are not broken, and you are not alone. Self-directed cruelty isn't some rare glitch that only affects a few unlucky people. Recent large-scale research on young adults found that a striking majority, well over 8 in 10 people between the ages of 18 and 34, report an ongoing sense of not measuring up, whether it's about how they look, what they've accomplished, or who they are. Most of us have stood in that exact spot, that feeling of, I'm not enough. I'm not smart enough, not disciplined enough, not likable enough. And there's a reason so many of us land there. Our brains come with a factory default called negativity bias. It's not a personal failing, it's architecture. Your mind is built to grab onto criticism and hold it much tighter than it holds onto praise. One rough comment can outweigh 10 kind ones. That's not weakness. That's biology doing exactly what it was built to do. But here's the twist. Is any of that harsh self-talk even accurate? Not really. And there's a strange little experiment that proves it beautifully. Researchers once asked a group of people to rate a series of recorded voices for how pleasant they sounded. What the participants didn't know was that their own voice had been secretly mixed into the pile. And overwhelmingly, people rated their own voice as more pleasant than they expected, often more pleasant than the others. Think about what that tells us. So many of the things we quietly despise about ourselves, our voice, our face in photos, the way we laugh too loud, they were never actually the problem. The moment we found out it was us, the judgment kicked in. We are endlessly generous evaluating other people, and then we turn around and build a wall the size of a mountain the second it's our own reflection in the mirror. Why joy fades and pain sticks? So why is the brain built this way? Let's look at another piece of research, because it explains something most of us have felt but never had words for. Scientists followed 3 groups of people over time. Those who had recently come into a large sum of money, those who had recently survived a serious injury or accident, and an ordinary control group living their regular lives. If you assumed the group with the windfall stayed permanently happier than everyone else, the data tells a different story. Within a fairly short window, their happiness settled right back down to baseline. Sometimes they even reported enjoying small everyday pleasures less than before. Psychologists call this the hedonic treadmill. We adapt to good fortune shockingly fast, and it stops moving the needle. But the accident survivors told a different story entirely. Their gap with the baseline group closed far more slowly. Pain lingered. It replayed itself. It compared the present to everything that used to be, over and over. Joy is a sprinter. Pain is a marathon runner who never seems to get tired. Why would our minds be built so unevenly? Go back thousands of years. For our ancestors, noticing danger mattered more, much more, than noticing pleasure. Imagine you're standing in front of a wild fig tree, fruit hanging heavy and ripe. Then you hear a branch snap behind you. If you miss the fruit, you're hungry for a night. If you miss the sound, you might not see morning. So the brain wired itself to sound the alarm louder than it ever celebrates. That ancient circuitry is still fully online today. Try this test on yourself. Which lasts longer in your memory? A genuine compliment from your manager, or one nasty comment a stranger left under something you posted? For most of us, that one splinter of criticism outlasts a dozen compliments combined. And underneath all of it sits one of our oldest fears, being cast out. For most of human history, your survival depended entirely on your tribe. Getting rejected by the group wasn't just painful, it was often fatal. So the brain developed a desperate hunger for belonging, one that will happily reshape you, reprogram you, silence you, if it thinks that's the price of staying accepted. Put that ancient wiring together with a brain that already magnifies the negative, and you get exactly what so many of us carry. A built-in inner critic working overtime, 24 hours a day, the love you had to earn. But biology is only half of this story. The other half is what we were taught, often before we could even talk back, in cultures and homes that place heavy weight on achievement. A certain belief gets planted early. Love isn't automatic. Love is a reward for meeting the standard. Psychologists have a name for this: conditional positive regard. It's the quiet, unspoken message that you are not accepted simply for existing. You are accepted when you perform well enough. Think about a scene that plays out in households all over the world. A child comes home holding a report card with a 94 out of 100 circled proudly on the page. And instead of celebration, the first words out of a parent's mouth are, "What happened to the other 6 points?" Or picture a household where a child is praised only when they're easy, quiet, agreeable, undemanding. But the moment they show frustration or exhaustion, they're met with irritation or silence. Here's what makes this so quietly devastating. A child doesn't have the tools to reason through that objectively. A 5-year-old cannot think, "My parents are short-tempered tonight because they're overwhelmed at work." A child's brain reaches for the simplest possible explanation, and it lands on this: "I am being treated this way because I am not enough. My worth is something I have to earn by being flawless." Carry that belief for 20, 30 years, and it doesn't stay a childhood memory. It becomes the operating system running quietly underneath everything, an automatic filter that takes every normal human stumble at work, in friendship, in love, and turns it into fresh proof that something is deeply wrong with you. That belief doesn't soften with age. It just digs its roots in deeper and becomes a habit you perform on yourself every single day without even noticing you're doing it. 3 people living in one body. And this is where it gets genuinely fascinating, because this belief creates something like a fracture. Instead of moving through life as one whole, integrated person, you end up quietly juggling 3 different versions of yourself. There's your actual self, who you really are right now, today, tired sometimes, imperfect sometimes, ordinary, human, real. There's your ideal self, the version you dream of becoming, calmer, more accomplished, more put together, the destination you're always reaching toward. And then there's the one doing the real damage, your ought self. This is the version you believe you must be in order to stay safe from rejection. Always upbeat, always composed, always available, never inconveniencing anyone, never dropping the mask. Here's a scene almost everyone will recognize. You're running on fumes, genuinely exhausted, stretched past your limit. Your actual self just wants to say, "I can't take on anything else right now." But your ought self steps in immediately, forces a smile, and says, "Sure, send it over. I've got it," while something inside you quietly deflates. Psychologists call the exhausting gap between who you are and who you feel forced to be self-discrepancy. And this, not your flaws, not your mistakes, is where so much of the pain actually comes from. It's not the imperfection itself. It's the relentless stretching between who you are, who you're told to become, and who you're terrified of disappointing. So why is it so easy to be endlessly patient with your best friend and so brutal with yourself? It comes down to information. With your friend, you only ever see the surface. You don't hear every insecure or petty thought that crosses their mind, so it's easy to extend grace. But with yourself, you carry the entire archive. Every cringeworthy memory, every mistake from a decade ago, every version of you that fell short, filed away, fully accessible, permanently open. Knowing the whole story makes you the harshest judge you will ever stand in front of. And when the door finally closes at the end of the day, the performance stops. That's when the cruelty surfaces. Not because you're a bad person, but because holding up the ought self all day took everything you had, and the self-attack is your exhausted mind's way of finally letting the pressure out, what actually works. Here's the problem with most of the advice floating around online. Just love yourself sounds lovely, and it means nothing. It's a bit like telling someone standing at the edge of a pool who's never learned to swim, just believe in yourself and jump in. What we actually need isn't a slogan. We need specific, repeatable, physical steps that retrain the nervous system. So let's talk about 3 of them. Change the pronoun. The biggest mistake in the middle of self-criticism is staying in first person. You end up playing 2 roles simultaneously. The one under attack and the one throwing the punches. I'm such an idiot. I ruin everything. When you use the word I, your brain fuses your entire identity to that single mistake and objectivity disappears. There's a simple fix, and it's backed by real research on emotional distance. The moment you catch that voice rising, pause for 3 seconds and shift the sentence out of first person. Instead of, I'm such an idiot, try, you're feeling embarrassed about that email you sent, or even switch to third person. He's being really hard on himself over one comment in a meeting. Then ask the question that changes everything. If my closest friend told me they'd done this exact thing, what would I say back to them? You wouldn't tell them they're worthless. You'd say, that happens to everyone. Fix what you can and let the rest go. Borrow that same compassion you hand out freely to everyone else and, for once, point it back at yourself. The 5-second rule for compliments. People carrying this pattern usually share one automatic reflex. They reject good information about themselves on contact. Someone says, that was such a thoughtful thing you did. And instead of letting it land, the brain scrambles to shrink it. Oh, it was nothing. Anyone would have done that. I just got lucky. Every time you deflect, you reinforce the exact belief you're trying to unlearn, that you have nothing worth acknowledging. So here's the practice. The next time someone compliments you, resist the urge to explain it away. Look at them and say 2 words. Thank you. Then. And this is the hard part. Sit in the silence for 5 full seconds. Let the discomfort exist. Don't fill it. Don't soften it. You are simply teaching your nervous system a radical new lesson. You are allowed to be seen well without earning it first. Reframe rest as maintenance, not selfishness. Underneath all of this sits a quiet fear. If I stop being hard on myself, I'll become lazy, careless, unlovable. Somewhere along the way, you started believing that self-punishment is the only thing holding you together. But think about this in the simplest possible physical terms. Your patience, your focus, your emotional capacity. These are not infinite. They are a battery, not a bottomless well. Every day you spend performing your ought self, smiling through exhaustion, absorbing everyone else's needs, never letting the mask slip. You are spending real energy. If you come home and spend what's left tearing yourself down instead of recharging, you are running your own system into the ground. You cannot pour from an empty cup, and you cannot charge someone else's phone from an outlet that isn't plugged in. A car that never gets refueled eventually stops running, no matter how far the driver still needs to go. When you let yourself run on empty long enough, you lose your patience with the people you love most. You lose focus in the moments that matter. You lose the very capacity to keep helping anyone at all. So rest isn't selfish. Softness toward yourself isn't selfish. It is required maintenance for a human being who wants to keep showing up, keep contributing, and keep being genuinely, not performatively, kind to the people around them. This kind of healing doesn't arrive overnight. The pathways carved by decades of evolution and years of conditioning don't dissolve in one video, one journal entry, one good day, your mind will keep reaching for the old, familiar cruelty, because on some level, it still feels like safety. But here's the truth I want you to carry out of this video with you. You do not need to fix your entire personality. You do not need to become flawless before you're allowed to rest. The only thing that actually needs to change is this. Stop applying one standard to the world and a crueler, harsher one to yourself. Take the same compassion you've been giving away for free your entire life and finally let some of it come home. Once you truly see how unfair that double standard has always been, something remarkable happens. The whole structure of self-punishment starts to lose its grip. Not because you fought it into submission, but because it simply stops making sense. So tell me, when was the last time you caught yourself being far harsher with yourself than you'd ever be with someone you love? And what actually helped you climb out of it? Write it in the comments below. Somebody scrolling through tonight, feeling exactly like you once did, might need to read your words more than they need mine. If this found you at the right moment, hit like, subscribe, and stay with us, because we're going to keep exploring the quiet corners of the mind together every single week. I am reclaiming my peace.